The fire cracked once, sharp as a breaking branch, and we all went still. It was nothing, just sap pockets in the wood. But for 3 full seconds no one spoke. We sat there in that small circle of orange light, listening to the forest breathe around us, and I realized I'd been holding my breath without knowing why. We were 4, myself, Rachel, Ben, and his cousin Jordan. Someone we'd only met that afternoon when Ben's car pulled into the trailhead parking lot. The campsite was 8 miles in, far enough that we'd seen no one else since leaving the main trail. The ranger station back at the entrance had been unstaffed, the logbook empty for 5 days. October in the Cascades meant solitude. We'd wanted that. The fire was good-sized, built properly in the existing ring with a bed of coals underneath. Ben knew what he was doing. He'd stacked extra wood within arm's reach, enough to last past midnight if we wanted. The flames rose about 2 feet, sometimes 3 when the wind found them, throwing light maybe 10 or 12 feet in every direction. Beyond that, the forest was a wall, not black exactly. Your eyes adjust, find shapes. The nearest trees were Douglas firs, their trunks catching just enough glow to exist as darker verticals against the dark. Beyond them, nothing. The new moon didn't help. Overcast sky, no stars. The kind of night where your flashlight beam just stops, like it's hitting something solid. Rachel was telling a story about her roommate's cat, something mundane and funny. I was only half listening, watching the way the firelight moved on her face, the shadows pooling under her cheekbones and in the hollows of her eyes. Jordan laughed at the punchline. Ben poked the fire with a stick, sending up a small galaxy of embers that died before reaching the branches above. That's when I noticed it. The edge of the light. It had moved. Not dramatically. Not in a way I could point to. But I'd been looking at the same spot, the same tree trunk about 10 feet to my left, and I was sure the light had reached a knot in the bark. Now it didn't. Now the knot was in shadow, maybe 6 inches farther back than it had been. I looked at the fire. It hadn't changed. Same height, same intensity. I looked back at the tree. The knot was still in shadow. "You good?" Rachel asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just thought I saw something." "Like what?" "Nothing. Trick of the light." Ben added another log. The fire swelled, pushed back against the dark. I watched that tree trunk. The knot emerged again, caught in the orange glow, exactly where I'd first seen it. "See?" Nothing. Jordan started talking about the trail we'd take tomorrow. A ridgeline that supposedly offered views all the way to the valley. Their voice had that performative enthusiasm people use when they're trying to fit in with a group that's known each other longer. Ben and Rachel had been friends since college. I'd known them 3 years. Jordan was provisional, still auditioning. I pulled my jacket tighter. The temperature was dropping. My breath showed faintly in the firelight. The forest was quiet. That registered slowly, not silent. I could hear wind high in the canopy, the occasional creak of wood, the soft hiss and pop of the fire. But the underbrush was still. No small movements, no rustling. Earlier, setting up camp in the last of the daylight, I'd heard birds. A squirrel had chattered at us from somewhere in the branches. Normal forest sounds, now nothing. Rachel got up to grab something from her tent. The beam of her headlamp cut through the dark, a clean white line that showed pine needles, ferns, the scuffed earth around our camp. She was gone maybe 30 seconds. When she came back and switched off the light, the darkness felt heavier than before. "Getting cold," Ben said. "Fire's good, though," Jordan offered. "Yeah." We sat. The silence stretched. It wasn't uncomfortable yet, just notable. 4 people who'd been talking easily all evening, suddenly running out of things to say. I found myself looking past the flames, into the spaces between the trees. Your eyes play tricks in conditions like this. You see shapes that aren't there, movement in the stillness. I knew that. I'd camped dozens of times, but knowing it doesn't stop your brain from interpreting shadows as forms, from finding patterns in randomness. There was a gap between 2 trees, maybe 15 feet out. I couldn't see what was beyond it, just darkness. But I kept looking at it anyway, the way you might keep looking at a doorway when you're alone in a house, just to make sure it stays empty. It stayed empty. Ben fed the fire again. We had plenty of wood. He'd made sure of that, dragging dead branches back to camp while we still had daylight, breaking them down, stacking them close. The fire was our center, our small circle of warmth and visibility. Everything else was suggestion and absence. "Did you hear that?" Jordan asked. We all went still again. "What?" Rachel said. "I don't know. A sound. Out there." Jordan gestured vaguely toward the dark. We listened. Wind, fire, nothing else. "Probably just a branch falling," Ben said. "Maybe." But Jordan kept looking in that direction, and I noticed they'd shifted slightly, moving closer to the fire. I checked my watch. 9:47. Early still. We'd planned to stay up later, enjoy the fire, maybe break out the whiskey Ben had brought. The night felt long ahead of us. The flames wavered, just wind pushing through camp. But they bent all in one direction, like something had moved past them. I felt it on my face, that momentary shift in air pressure. Rachel wrapped her arms around her knees. "Getting colder," she said. "Want me to build it up more?" Ben reached for another piece of wood. "We should probably conserve," Jordan said. "Long night. We have plenty." Ben added 2 more logs anyway. The fire climbed bright and crackling, pushing light farther into the trees. I watched our shadows leap and distort against the forest behind us, huge and wrong. The light reached maybe 15 feet now. I could see more of the campsite, our tents arranged in a rough semicircle behind us, the bear bag hanging from a high branch 20 yards off, the faint outline of the trail we'd come in on, details emerging from nothing. And I watched the darkness pull back from the growing light, retreating like water from shore. Then the fire settled, found its new equilibrium. The flames steadied. The darkness was still there, close as before, maybe closer. I stared at that gap between the trees again. Had it been that near? I tried to remember where I'd first noticed it, how far out it had seemed. Distances are hard to judge in darkness. Perspective collapses, but I didn't think it had been that close. 10 feet, maybe less. "Jordan's right," I said. "We should probably save some wood." Ben glanced at the stack beside him. "There's a lot here. Still." He shrugged, left the fire alone. We sat in a silence that had weight now, that pressed down on the conversation we weren't having. Rachel took out her phone, looked at the screen. No signal, of course. We'd known that coming in. She put it away. The wind picked up. I heard it coming from far off, moving through the valley, climbing toward us. When it hit, the fire bent and the trees swayed, and for just a moment everything was movement and sound. Then it passed, continued on up the slope, and stillness returned. In the new quiet, I heard something else. Not a sound exactly. More like the absence of sound moving, the way you can sense an open door in a dark room, a change in the quality of silence. I wasn't the only one who noticed. Rachel sat up straighter. Ben stopped moving entirely. Jordan's eyes were fixed on something past my shoulder. "There," Jordan whispered. "Did you see it?" "See what?" But my voice came out quiet too. Something moved, right at the edge of the light. We all looked. The firelight showed us trees, ferns, the scattered stones marking the boundary of our camp. Nothing moved. Nothing was there. "Where?" Ben asked. Jordan pointed. "There, it was there." The spot they indicated was maybe 12 feet from the fire, in the space between my tent and Rachel's. Just darkness and the suggestion of undergrowth. "I don't see anything," Rachel said. "It's gone now, but something was there, something tall." "Probably a tree," I said. "The light playing on bark. Our trees don't move. The shadows do. When the fire shifts, I know what I saw." The defensive edge in Jordan's voice made me stop. We all sat there looking at empty darkness, and nobody said the obvious thing, that we were miles from anywhere, that the forest was full of animals, that eyes and minds play tricks. Ben added another log to the fire. "I thought we were conserving," Rachel said. "Better safe than sorry." The new wood caught quickly, the fire building again, more light, more warmth. The shadows rearranged themselves. I watched the place Jordan had pointed to. A tree trunk emerged, closer than I'd expected. Had that been there before? I couldn't remember. The light made it visible now. Rough bark, a low branch extending toward our camp. Just a tree. Just a tree that I somehow hadn't noticed before. "There's a lot of wood out there," Ben said. "If we need more, I can grab some." "In the dark?" Rachel's voice carried an edge. "I have my headlamp. Let's just see how it goes." We fell quiet again. I noticed I was clenching my jaw and made myself relax. This was ridiculous. We were 4 adults sitting around a campfire, spooked by nothing, by darkness and isolation and our own imaginations. I forced myself to look away from the forest, to focus on the fire instead. The way the flames moved, blue at the base, yellow higher up, orange at the tips. The patterns were random but mesmerizing. I could lose myself there, in the light and heat, forget about what lay beyond it. But I couldn't stop listening. The forest was still too quiet. In all my camping trips, I'd never experienced this total absence of small sounds. Even in winter, even in the deadest hours of night, there was something. Now, there was just wind, and even that seemed hesitant, like it didn't want to disturb what was out there. Rachel stood up suddenly. "I need to pee," she announced. "Want company?" I asked. She hesitated. I saw her considering, saw her about to say yes. Then she caught herself. "I'm good, just gonna step behind my tent." She grabbed her headlamp, switched it on. The beam cut a path through the dark. She walked to her tent, the light bouncing with her steps, then disappeared behind it. The 3 of us sat there listening. I heard her footsteps, heard them stop. Silence, then footsteps again, coming back. She turned off her headlamp as she returned to the fire. Her face looked pale. "Okay?" I asked. "Yeah, fine." But she sat down very close to the flames, closer than before. Ben was watching her. "You sure?" I said I'm fine. We didn't push it. The fire was burning through wood faster than it should have been. Ben had built it properly with good airflow, but it seemed hungry tonight. The logs we'd added were already breaking down, collapsing into coals. "I'll get more," Ben said, standing. "I'll help," Jordan said quickly. They both grabbed headlamps, switched them on. The beams crossed and swept through camp, making the shadows leap and scatter. They walked to the woodpile Ben had created, maybe 30 feet from the fire. I watched their lights bob and weave as they selected pieces, heard the crack of dead wood breaking. Rachel leaned toward me. "Something's wrong," she whispered. "What do you mean?" When I was behind my tent, the light from my headlamp, it wasn't reaching as far as it should. Batteries low? No. Full charge, but it was like the darkness was thicker, like the light couldn't push through it. I wanted to tell her she was imagining things, but I'd felt it too, that sense of the darkness having presence, having weight. Ben and Jordan came back with arms full of wood. They dropped it beside the fire, larger pile now than before. "Should last us," Ben said. He fed 3 more logs into the flames. They caught quickly, the fire swelling. Heat washing over us. I held my hands out to it, let it warm my palms. The light expanded again, reaching 15, maybe 16 feet into the forest. And again, I watched the darkness pull back from it, not like a shadow retreating, like something physical, something aware, drawing back from the light, regrouping at a new distance. I told myself I was being ridiculous, but I couldn't shake the image. Darkness, breathing, contracting and expanding like lungs. "What time is it?" Jordan asked. I checked. 10:23. Feels later. It did. The night had a stretched quality, like time was moving differently out here. I thought about how many hours until sunrise, at least 9, maybe 10. The fire popped, loud. We all jumped. Jesus, Rachel said, laughing nervously. We're really freaking ourselves out here. Yeah, I agreed, but I didn't laugh. Ben was staring past the flames, into the forest. I followed his gaze. He was looking at that gap between the trees, the same one I'd been watching. You see it too, I said quietly. See what? Whatever we're all looking at. He didn't deny it. It's closer. Rachel made a sound, something between a laugh and a breath. Stop it. I'm serious. That gap. It's closer than it was. That's impossible, Jordan said. The trees aren't moving. No, but look at it. Really look. We did. All 4 of us, staring at empty darkness between 2 trees. It was closer. I knew exactly where that gap had been when I first noticed it. I'd been using it as a reference point, checking it periodically, 15 feet out, maybe slightly more. Now it was 10 feet, if that. I could almost reach it if I stood up and stretched. The fire, Rachel said. We made the fire bigger, so the light reaches farther. That's all. The fire's the same size it's been for the last 10 minutes, Ben said. Then the smoke shifted, or the wind changed. Or we're all just tired and... Look at the trees, I interrupted. The 2 trees flanking that gap. I could see them clearly now, good light on both. Their positions relative to our camp hadn't changed. They were still the same distance from the fire. The light wasn't reaching any farther, but the gap between them, that space of darkness, it had moved forward. This is insane, Jordan said. Gaps don't move. Empty space doesn't move. Then explain it. I can't, but there has to be a reason, perception, or something snapped in the forest. Not a twig. Something heavier. The sound of weight on wood, breaking it. We all froze. It had come from our left, maybe 20 yards out, beyond the firelight in the solid dark. Deer, Ben said, or elk. We waited. No more sounds. No movement. Maybe we should add more wood, Rachel suggested. Ben didn't argue this time. He grabbed 2 more logs, placed them carefully. The fire climbed higher than before, the flames reaching, eager. The light pushed out farther, 17, 18 feet now. I watched the darkness. It pulled back. I saw it clearly this time, saw the edge of visibility recede like a tide. The forest floor became visible in places that had been black moments before, exposed roots, fallen needles, a scatter of pine cones. Then the fire settled. The flames found their peak and leveled off, and the darkness came back, not all at once. Gradually, so gradually I almost missed it. But the places that had just been revealed were shadowed again. The roots disappeared. The pine cones faded. The darkness had returned to where it was before, maybe slightly closer. Did you see that? I asked. See what? Jordan's voice was tight. When the fire got bigger, the dark pulled back. When it settled, the dark came forward again. Light doesn't work that way, Rachel said. I know. So what are you saying? I didn't answer. I didn't know what I was saying. Just that something was wrong with the darkness around our fire, something I couldn't explain, but could feel in my chest, in the primitive part of my brain that still remembered being prey. Ben stood up. I'm going to check the perimeter. What? Rachel grabbed his arm. No, you're not. Just around the camp. Make sure everything's secure. Ben, it'll take 2 minutes. I'll stay in sight of the fire. He switched on his headlamp before anyone could stop him, started walking toward the tree line. His light beam cut through the dark, showing normal forest. He walked slowly, deliberately, checking behind tents, around our supply bags. We watched him circle the camp, watched his light move through the trees. Then he stopped. He was standing maybe 20 feet from the fire, near the edge of where our light reached. His headlamp was pointing at something. He wasn't moving. "Ben!" Rachel called. He didn't respond. "Ben!" Louder now. He took a step back, then another. Then he turned and walked quickly back to the fire, his movements controlled but urgent. He sat down hard. "What?" I asked. "What did you see?" "Nothing." "Bullshit. What was it?" He looked at each of us. His face was pale in the firelight, a sheen of sweat on his forehead despite the cold. "The trees," he said quietly. "The ones at the edge of the light. They're not the same trees that were there before." "That's impossible," Jordan said. "I know it's impossible, but I've been looking at those trees all night. There was a dead one leaning. It's gone, and there's a big Douglas fir now, right where the gap used to be. I'd have noticed a tree that size." "You're confused," Rachel said. "It's dark. Everything looks different." "I'm not confused." We fell silent. The fire crackled. I realized I was breathing faster, my heart working harder than it should be. "Maybe we should put out the fire," I said. They all looked at me. "What?" Ben said. "Why?" "Think about it. Every time we make it bigger, the dark pulls back. But then it comes forward again. And each time it does, it's a little closer. So what if it's attracted to the fire? What if we're drawing it in?" "Drawing what in?" Rachel demanded. "There's nothing out there. There can't be anything out there." "Then why is the forest so quiet? Why haven't we heard a single animal in over an hour?" No one had an answer. Jordan spoke up. "If we put out the fire, we'll be in complete darkness. We have flashlights. You want to sit out here, in the middle of nowhere, in total darkness, because you think something's being attracted to our fire?" Jordan's voice rose. "That's insane. More insane than trees moving. The trees aren't moving." "Then what did Ben see?" "I don't know, but putting out our only light source isn't the answer." Rachel was looking at the darkness beyond our fire. "What if it's not attracted to the light?" she said slowly. "What if it's repelled by it? What if the fire is the only thing keeping it back?" We sat with that thought, felt its weight. "So either way," I said, "we're fucked." "We're not fucked," Ben said, but his voice lacked conviction. "We're 4 people with lights and tools and a good fire. Whatever's out there, if there is anything out there, can't hurt us." "You don't know that." "Wild animals don't attack groups. They avoid fire. They avoid humans. We're safe here." "What if it's not an animal?" The question hung in the air. No one wanted to answer it. The fire had burned down again. I could see it happening now, see the flames shrinking, the light contracting, and at the edge of visibility, I could see the darkness waiting. Ben reached for more wood. "Don't," Rachel said. "We need to keep it going. But if it keeps coming closer every time, we can't let it go out." He added 4 logs this time. The fire roared up higher than before, the heat intense enough that we had to lean back. The light exploded outward, reaching 20 feet, 25. I saw the forest floor clearly now, saw details I hadn't noticed, the texture of bark, the pattern of needles, individual leaves on the ferns. And I saw the gap. It was still there. Still the same gap I'd been watching. But now I could see what was beyond it. More darkness, not the darkness of shadow, not the absence of light. Something else, something that absorbed the light, that drank it in without reflecting anything back. A darkness that had shape. "Oh God," Rachel whispered. She'd seen it too. We all had. The fire burned bright, brighter than it had all night. And at the very limit of its reach, where the orange glow faded to nothing, there was something standing. We couldn't see it clearly. The light wasn't strong enough, or maybe it wasn't meant to be seen. But we could sense its outline, sense its height. Taller than the trees around it, taller than anything should be. And it was watching us. No one moved, no one breathed. The fire began to settle. "Add more," Jordan said. "Add more wood." "We're running low," Ben said. "I don't care. Add it." Ben grabbed the remaining logs, 3 of them, threw them onto the fire. The flames surged again, but not as high as before. The light pushed out, but not as far. The shape was closer. I could almost see details now, almost. The suggestion of arms, the wrongness of proportions, the sense of too many joints, too many angles. The fire settled faster this time. The shape came forward. "The tents," Rachel said. "Get in the tents." "And do what?" I asked. "Nylon isn't going to stop anything." "So what do we do?" No one had an answer. The fire was burning low now, the flames barely 2 feet high. The light reached maybe 15 feet, 12, 10. The shape was at the edge of visibility. Ben grabbed a flashlight, pointed it toward the darkness. The beam shot out, strong and clean, and showed us trees, just trees, normal forest, no shape. He moved the beam, swept it back and forth, trees, ferns, rocks, nothing else. He turned off the light. In the firelight, at the limit of vision, the shape was still there. "It doesn't like direct light," I said. "Only firelight, only the edges." "That doesn't make sense," Jordan said. "None of this makes sense." The fire popped. Sap pockets again, but we barely noticed. We were all staring at the shape, at the darkness that had form, that had presence. Rachel was crying quietly. I reached over, took her hand. It was ice cold. "We need to stay calm," Ben said. "Whatever this is, whatever we're seeing, we need to stay calm and think." "Think about what?" Jordan's voice cracked. "There's something out there, something wrong, something that shouldn't exist. We don't know that. We don't know what we're seeing." But he did. We all did. The fire was dying. We had no more wood. Ben had spent it all, feeding the flames, trying to keep the darkness back. I looked at the pile where the logs had been, empty. "There's more in the forest," Ben said. "Dead wood everywhere." "You're not going out there," Rachel said. "We need it. We need to leave. We need to pack up and hike out. In the dark, we'll get lost. We'll break an ankle. We'll die if we stay here." The fire was barely a foot high now. The light contracted around us, pulling in like a closing fist. I could feel the darkness at my back, could feel it surrounding us. The shape was moving, not walking, not approaching in any normal way, just closer, between one moment and the next, closer, the way objects in dreams shift position without motion, without transition. It was close enough now that I could almost make out features, almost, a suggestion of eyes, the wrong number of them, in the wrong places. "We have to let it go out," I said. "What?" Everyone turned to stare at me. "The fire. We're feeding it, making it stronger, and every time we do, that thing comes closer. Maybe if we let it die, if there's no more light to draw it in, or maybe the fire's the only thing keeping it back," Rachel said. "Maybe the second it goes out, that thing comes all the way in." We didn't know. We couldn't know. The fire was 6 inches high, then 4. The shape was right at the edge of the light now. I could see it clearly, and wish I couldn't. The parts that might have been arms, the thing that might have been a head, the height of it, the impossible height. Jordan was hyperventilating. Rachel was gripping my hand so hard it hurt. Ben was frozen, staring at the thing in the darkness. The fire dropped to 2 inches. The shape leaned forward, and then the flames went out. Complete darkness slammed down on us like a physical weight. For a moment, one eternal moment, there was nothing. No light, no sound. Just the absence of everything, the void pressing in from all sides. Someone screamed. I think it was Jordan. Flashlights came on, 3 beams cutting through the dark, sweeping wildly. They showed us the campsite, our tents, the dead fire, the forest beyond. Nothing else, no shape, no presence, just normal darkness, normal trees. "Where is it?" Rachel gasped. "Where did it go?" We swept the lights around, searching. The beams showed us everything and nothing. The forest was empty. The darkness was just darkness. But the silence remained, and I realized something, standing there in the flashlight beams, my heart hammering against my ribs. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was full, full of waiting. We stood there, the three lights crossing and recrossing, showing us a forest that looked exactly like it should. But none of us turned off our flashlights. None of us moved. Ben spoke first. "We need to get out of here." No one argued. We broke camp in darkness, working fast, hands shaking, stuffed sleeping bags into compression sacks without rolling them, collapsed tents without folding them, everything thrown into packs with no organization, no care. Jordan's headlamp died. Rachel shared hers. 8 miles to the trailhead. 8 miles in complete darkness, following a trail we could barely see. We started walking. I don't remember most of that hike. I remember the narrow beam of my headlamp, showing roots and rocks. I remember the sound of our breathing, harsh and frightened. I remember stopping once when we thought we heard something behind us, but when we turned, there was only darkness. We reached the parking lot as the first grey light touched the eastern sky. Ben's car was where we'd left it. We threw our gear in the trunk, climbed inside, locked the doors. No one spoke as we drove away. We stopped at a gas station an hour later, used the bathroom, bought coffee, tried to act normal. Jordan left that afternoon, caught a bus back home, said they needed to be somewhere, wouldn't meet our eyes. Rachel and I tried to talk about it once, tried to make sense of what we'd seen, but the words felt wrong, felt insufficient. We gave up. Ben sold his camping gear 2 weeks later. All of it. Told me he was done with backpacking. I still have mine. It sits in my closet untouched. Sometimes late at night I think about that campfire, about the way the darkness moved, the way it breathed, about the shape we saw, or didn't see or almost saw. I think about how the fire kept it back, and I think about what happened when the fire went out, what we didn't see in those final moments of darkness, what we couldn't see, even with our lights. Because some things don't reflect light the way they should. Some things exist in the spaces where light doesn't quite reach. I've never been camping since, none of us have, and I've started leaving lights on at night, just to be sure, just to keep the darkness where it belongs. But sometimes, in that moment between waking and sleep, I remember that silence, that full, waiting silence, and I wonder if the darkness is still there, still watching, still waiting for the light to go out.